started if you'd like.
Okay, my name is Maria Papadopoulou, and I'm a humanist and a digital humanist, and I work at the University of Savoie-Mont Blanc. And the title of this paper is Modeling in Mathematics and History as Teaching and Learning Approaches to Pandemics. The research team, I will present my colleagues also, Panagiota Argyri, a mathematician and expert in innovative teaching approaches to STEM, and also interested in the connection between school and work via skills, and Professor Zacharoula Smyrnaiou, whose research interests focus on new technologies in education and the dynamics of and the didactics of STEM. So today's agenda contains the following items: introduction, outcomes, design and implementation, evaluation of the research, and some conclusions that we've drawn. In order to expand the notion of disciplinary literacy in both mathematics and history, and also follow the learner's interest, obviously because of the relevance of the topic of pandemics, and help students cope with the hardships of the lockdown, we decided to combine concepts, content, and tools from mathematics and history, and drew up the first interdisciplinary curriculum in Greek public education, combining the mathematical modeling of pandemics with history, using the plague of Athens as a case study. So the outcomes of this research are threefold: teaching materials with relevant primary sources, exercises, and activities for students, a student questionnaire of 21 items in order to give the floor to the students to evaluate the teaching, and the pandemics epidemic syllabus, subject to approval by the Institute of Educational Policy of the Greek Ministry of Education, and subsequently will hopefully be implemented across Greek public middle schools in the coming academic year, school year. So obviously in March 2020, following the lockdown of schools and universities across the world, we all transitioned to online instruction. And on April 1st, we delivered an interdisciplinary didactic approach to the topic of pandemics at the Model School Evangeliki in Athens, Greece. It should be noted that model schools are known in Greece for the rigorous recruitment of both staff and students. The type of instruction was online, synchronous, remote, followed by student work. And the method used was flipped classroom, which means that the teaching materials were developed and administered prior to instruction. Our main questions asked were: can modeling, as analyzed in the scientific literature, be used to interpret pandemics, for example, in the case of the plague of Athens, as analyzed in the primary sources? And can the mathematical tools of statistical analysis be used to understand prevention measures through the centuries? So our aims were: first, teach about infectious disease outbreaks in an interdisciplinary way, apply disciplinary mathematical modeling tools to the study of pandemics, explore continuity and change with particular reference to modes of spreading and prevention measures in the history of pandemics. Now, models played, the concept of models and modeling played an important role in this teaching, because obviously modeling is a heuristic strategy in both the sciences and the humanities. According to Sula and Aiden, modeling is the creative process of thinking and reasoning where meaning is made and negotiated through the creation and manipulation of external representations. And according to Gilbert, the making of meaning of any such representation is visualization. So why pandemics? Obviously because of the relevance of the topic, but also our aim was to help students deepen their disciplinary knowledge, improve their soft skills, and develop a high sense of personal and social responsibility, which promotes responsible global citizenship. And the skills that we aimed for, while helping students navigate through the history of infectious diseases, were organized in three sets. First, cognition-related skills. Second, data and information-related skills. And third, social life skills. So the model we used was the SIR model, which tracks the numbers of susceptible, infected, and recovered individuals during an epidemic or a pandemic with the help of ordinary differential equations. We also highlighted the concept that history is ideal for those who want to study complex systems, and used the example of the plague of Athens to illustrate this principle. One fundamental parameter that governs the spread of diseases is the basic reproductive ratio, or R naught. R naught indicates how infectious a disease is. The highest its value, the faster an epidemic will spread and progress. If the average R naught of the population is greater than 1, the infection will spread exponentially. But if it's less than 1, the infection will spread only slowly and eventually will die out. So R naught is estimated from the data collected in the field and entered into mathematical models. The estimated value depends on the model used and on the data that inform this model. So the students were presented with this case study after Patel 2019 in order to see how modern immunology combines with historical sources. They studied the testimony of Thucydides, the historian, an Athenian who survived the plague of Athens and who clearly states that the plague was at its worst in the most densely populated areas inside the so-called long walls, where people had sought refuge in order to escape the invasion of the enemy army, the Spartan army. Based on the same study, R naught was calculated taking into account information on the transmissibility of 3 possible infectious diseases and with 3 different population estimates using the SIR model. So here's a taste of what the contents of the material, the teaching materials looked like. They were clearly geared around directing the students towards performing the tasks that they were asked to do. And this is an example of the exercises. They were given, for example, this infographic, and the question that they had to answer was, list the 3 pandemics with the greatest death toll and calculate what the average death rate worldwide over the centuries was, and whether the average rate was a reliable measure. And we also presented students with the longue durée view of history, giving them this infographic that shows pandemics from the plague of Antoninus, which was the first pandemic of our era, until COVID-19, the ongoing pandemic. They were presented also with charts and graphs, like the one shown here from the London and the New York cholera outbreaks in the 19th century, and maps like this map of Paris showing the parts of Paris which were most affected by the cholera in the 1830s. But they were not just given textual sources, they were presented with visual sources like this one, a wax model of a plague scene from 657 from Europeana, the greatest digital portal for cultural content in Europe. Let me move on to the evaluation phase and the student questionnaire, which was administered to a small population of 28 respondents, aged 16 to 17. It was organized in 3 parts, pre and post instruction, and consisting a last session of self-evaluation. And it contained both open-ended and multiple choice questions. Now, most of the students responded that they wanted to study mathematics, and the humanities and social sciences came second. And it was a welcome surprise that they answered that they had participated in interdisciplinary teaching lessons. Most of them, the majority, said twice before. And this is what they replied when they were asked whether they were interested in what was taught. Most of them were extremely interested, or very interested, or somewhat interested. And here are the categories that have been highlighted for the students' expectations: linking mathematics to the humanities, history, new knowledge, protection measures of pandemics, historical information about pandemics, knowledge about pandemics, mathematical modeling, mathematics of pandemics, and in more detail, using the students' own words, elements that correspond to today's reality, historical data on pandemics, something new, things not widely known to the public at large, new things, how to best protect myself, and what will happen after the pandemic, application of mathematical elements to historical data, more things about pandemics and the like, about pandemics, cases of epidemics in the past and how they were treated, information on medical research in the past, how important is the impact of the current virus on humanity in relation to past pandemics, how math links to humanities. I have more, but I did not include them in this presentation. I will put them online or I will share them with everybody if you're interested. And this is the post-teaching evaluation part of the questionnaire, where it's shown clearly that the students rated quite high the improvement of their attitude and motivation toward learning, how they assessed themselves this improvement. And the same goes for the improvement of knowledge in mathematics and in history. I'm sorry? I can hear someone, but I'm not sure what that is. And so I'll go on to this next slide, showing how the students themselves reported their own assessment of the skills that the skills that were improved. And the list is topped by analyzing information, critical thinking, ability to make reasoned decisions, and creativity, intercultural understanding, flexibility, adaptability, organizational skills, and self-awareness, self-knowledge come next. So this study has led us to some provisional conclusions. Pandemics are a topic that lends itself for an interdisciplinary approach combining mathematical modeling and history. Student exposure to case studies using data about historical periods to practice mathematical content knowledge enhances learning in both disciplinary areas, and students reported considerable improvement in 8 different skills. And I will leave you with a short citation from Max Black from Models and Metaphors, Studies in Language and Philosophy. He is a famous epistemologist of the 60s. And he writes, when the understanding of scientific models and archetypes comes to be regarded as a reputable part of scientific culture, the gap between the sciences and the humanities will have been partly filled. So thank you very much. I think I took 2 minutes less than or 1 minute something. So maybe there is time for, I will stop sharing now. If there are any questions. Okay. If not, I don't know, it's up to you, Richard. If the next presenter, the person filling in for Dr.
Yes.
Dr. Yavuz Selim Kalel, maybe they can start sharing the screen.
Oh, sure.
It's up to you.
Yes, let's do that.
And maybe leave some time for people to brew over things and put the questions in the chat, or maybe ask questions at the end of the session.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I didn't really have any questions, but I thought it was excellent, and you know, we'll continue to keep up the good work when we do proceedings later in the year. Is the person here?
I would like to present also my co-author, Panagiota Argyri. who I would like to say also has been researching pandemics and delivering innovative teaching approaches on pandemics for the third year now. For the third year.
You were researching before?
Yes,
before coronavirus?
the third year that she delivers innovative teaching on pandemics using mathematical modeling. So the next.
Thank you for your positive comments and congratulations for your presentation. I think that you well presented the basic step and things of our co-creation lesson during pandemic. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Next year, if all goes well, we'll be back presenting the outcomes of the nationwide, I mean, Greek-wide.
Oh, you're on the mute again.
On the outcomes of the curriculum that's going to be implemented.
Without pandemic, we will try to do the best without pandemic in the global scale. Thank you.
Yes, it could be some time. We have here schools are pushing